He grabbed my car keys from my hand like he owned them. Mom just stood there smirking, arms crossed like this was justice finally served. "You should be happy for your brother," she said. "He deserves a better life than you." That was the moment. That exact moment. The one where something inside me stopped bending and finally snapped. My name is Rachel. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been told by your own mother that you were worth less than someone else, just because you didn't shine the way they did? I didn't say a word. I just smiled. And handed over the keys like a good little sister. "Oh," I said sweetly. "It's all yours, Kyle. Just drive safe, okay?" He laughed. Tossed the keys in the air like he'd won something. And Mom looked at me like I'd finally learned my place. They didn't see my hands trembling behind my back. Or notice that I never looked at the car, not directly. Because that wasn't just a car anymore. It was a trigger. Waiting to be pulled. An hour later, Mom was still bragging on the porch, telling my aunt how proud she was that Kyle finally got something deserved, when her phone rang. I watched her face twist from smug to sick in seconds. "No," she whispered. "No, that's not possible." She looked at me, eyes wide, lips shaking. I just sipped my lemonade. That's when she screamed. The phone slipped from her hand. And I leaned in slow and calm. "Still think he deserved better, Mom?" Because karma wasn't coming. It had already arrived, and I was driving. You want to know how we got there, right? To the moment my mother's face drained of color and the golden boy was nowhere to be found? Let me rewind. Just enough for you to understand the rot beneath the ribbons. Growing up, I was the extra. The placeholder. The one who did her chores, kept her head down and was told, "Don't expect much, you're not like your brother." But he was the son. The chosen. When he failed out of college, they threw him a welcome home party. When I graduated with honors, Mom didn't even show. But I didn't need a parade. I had something better. A spine. And a job. A good one. I saved, budgeted, and bought myself a car. Not flashy but mine. Paid in full. Meanwhile, Kyle was bouncing from girlfriend to girlfriend, job to job. Every time he messed up, guess who bailed him out? Not me. It was Mom. She sold her jewelry when he racked up gambling debts. She drained her retirement fund to help him start a business. That failed in 6 months. But the final insult? When he crashed his third car and called crying, she told him, "Don't worry, honey. Rachel will do the right thing. She doesn't even need a car like that." And just like that, my independence was volunteered as a sacrifice. I refused. At first. I said, "No, Mom. That's my car. I worked for it." He didn't. She tilted her head. That smug tilt I hated since I was 9. "You don't even have kids," she said. "Or a husband. Why are you so selfish?" He said that word like it was venom. Selfish. Because I wanted to keep what I earned. That night I sat in my car for a long time staring at the dashboard. Not angry. Not crying. And something inside me whispered, "Let them have it. Let them take it. But make sure it's the last thing they ever steal from you." So I got to work. The trap started with a smile. And it would end with a call that shattered everything they thought they knew. I showed up the next morning with the keys in my hand and a smile on my face. Mom was already waiting on the porch, arms crossed, lips tight with judgment. But still asleep. Probably hungover. "Changed your mind?" she asked. I nodded. "You're right. He deserves better." She blinked, suspicious. But I played the part. Meek, apologetic. The good daughter again. I handed her the keys. She grinned like she'd just won a prize at the county fair. But I didn't tell her about the mechanic I'd quietly paid the night before. Didn't mention the small GPS tracker hidden behind the taillight. Didn't explain why I switched the registration to my name again just that morning. And I definitely didn't bring up the folder sitting in my glove compartment. With screenshots, voice recordings, receipts, everything Kyle had done over the last 3 years. He didn't just owe money. He owed dangerous people. The kind who don't take, "I'll pay you back next week" as currency. And I knew exactly where he'd go with that car. See, Kyle wasn't creative. He only had one plan when he needed fast cash. Pawn Mom's jewelry. He drove off that afternoon, blasting music like it was his victory parade. Mom waved at him like he was heading off to law school. I stood beside her, quiet, counting the seconds. 20, 30. Then I walked to my own car, the one I'd actually been using the last few weeks. And followed. He didn't see me behind him when he parked outside that same sleazy pawn shop. Didn't see me lift my phone and start recording. Didn't see the police cruiser I'd tipped off to be in the area, with an anonymous call about a car thief showing up with stolen property. But I saw it all. The panic. The shouting. The cuffs. And best of all, the call to Mom that came exactly 45 minutes later. I watched her answer it. And her smirk? It crumbled like ash on her lips. She dropped the wine glass she was holding. And I just stood there sipping my iced tea. Because sometimes revenge doesn't scream. It waits. Arrested. Mom's voice cracked as she repeated it. Her hand trembled, fingers twitching against her phone like static. She looked at me. He was set up, right? I tilted my head. Or maybe, karma's just punctual this year. She didn't laugh. She didn't even blink. I walked past her, slow and calm, letting the silence peel her nerves. Where are you going? She snapped. To get some popcorn, I said. This is getting good. The truth? Kyle didn't even make it out of the holding cell that night. Turns out he had a few surprise warrants waiting. Unpaid loans, vandalism, even a bar fight that left a guy in the ICU. And the pawn shop? The manager recognized him. Said, "This punk again?" Filed a formal complaint. By morning, Kyle was facing 3 separate charges. And Mom was pacing like a trapped animal in her spotless kitchen. "This is a misunderstanding," she muttered. "We'll clear it up. He's just confused." "No, Mom," I said, placing a manila folder in front of her. "You are." She stared at the documents, bank statements showing Kyle draining her account. Fake signatures. Credit cards opened in her name. I had it all. And the kicker? A voice recording. Crystal clear. Kyle bragging to his friend. "Mom'll never turn on me. He thinks I'm some golden god or whatever. That idiot sister of mine? She doesn't even matter." I pressed play. Mom sat frozen. Her face collapsed in slow motion. Like a castle made of sugar melting in the rain. He didn't mean that," she whispered. I stood. "You wanted me to give him my car. My savings. My future. Because I don't have kids? Because he deserves it." Her silence was louder than a slap. I leaned in close enough to smell the panic on her breath. "Well, guess what, Mom? I don't need to be a mother to know when I'm done being your scapegoat." She didn't speak. She didn't move. Because for the first time she realized, the daughter she thought would always stay quiet, was finally writing her own ending. And it wouldn't be a fairy tale. It would be a reckoning. Mom cried for 2 days. Not for me. Not for the lies. For him. For Kyle. She kept saying, "He's my son. I have to protect him." I didn't scream. I didn't plead. I just watched her the way a surgeon watches a tumor. Detached, surgical, preparing for the final cut. By day 3 she was in full denial mode. She tried to withdraw money for a lawyer. Denied. Kyle had already maxed out her cards and dipped into her retirement fund. When she called me, her voice low, begging, I almost felt pity. Almost. "Emma, please. If you could just loan me." "No," I said, calm as a closed door. "Ask your golden boy." Silence. "Emma." I didn't know. I let that sit. As she did. She knew when he stole my laptop in high school and blamed it on the maid. She knew when he took my emergency fund in college by mistake and bought a PlayStation. He always knew. But guilt is a shapeshifter. It shows up wearing your daughter's silence and your son's charm. I decided it was time for Mom to meet the truth face to face. So I invited her to the courtroom. I didn't warn her what was coming. The prosecutor read out the charges, line by filthy line. Kyle's smirk? Gone. I watched my mother grip the edge of the bench like she was drowning. And then a woman took the stand. Kyle's ex. She told the court how he used her credit, then dumped her with debt and threats. How he borrowed $15,000 from her parents. Never paid it back. How he'd stolen her dog, then sold it. Mom gasped. That was the moment her golden boy shattered into dust. I leaned close to her and whispered, still proud. She didn't answer. But her mascara was bleeding like truth from her face. And when court recessed, I stood tall. Unapologetic. Unafraid. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the girl sitting quietly in the corner of her own story. I was the one handing out the chapters. And Kyle's next one was titled Sentencing. The sentencing hearing was held on a rainy Thursday. Fitting. Kyle sat there in that ill-fitting suit, eyes darting, sweat blooming through the fabric like guilt finally reaching the surface. Mom was beside me. She hadn't said a word since the ex testified. Not even on the drive. But when the judge entered, she whispered, "He was supposed to be better than this." I didn't reply. Because in her mind I was never supposed to be better than him. The prosecution didn't hold back. 6 charges. 3 victims. Over $100,000 in fraud, identity theft, and emotional damage. Then came the footage. The security cam from the dealership. Kyle forging her signature on the loan papers for the BMW. Mom went pale. Her hand shot up to her mouth. Her voice broke. "He used my name?" I didn't nod. Didn't speak. Just watched her drown in the pool she built herself. The judge was firm. 36 months, no parole. Kyle lost it. Yelling about how it was all a mistake. How he was framed. How Emma set me up. The courtroom was still. I stood slowly, every eye on me. And for the first time I didn't feel small. "You're right, Kyle," I said. "I gave you the keys." Gasps. "But you drove yourself here." The bailiff dragged him out screaming. That night I went home. My own home. My car in the driveway. My name on the title. I poured myself a glass of wine and opened a letter from my boss. Promotion confirmed. $25,000 raise. Full health coverage. Stock options. I laughed, softly, sadly. Not because Kyle was gone. But because I was finally free. Free from the guilt they made me wear like hand-me-downs. Free from being the emotional trash can for their golden child. And yet, the house still echoed with silence. The kind that comes when a war ends and all you have left are the bones. But I'd rather walk alone in truth than dance forever in someone else's illusion. A week after the sentencing, Mom showed up at my door. No call. No warning. Just her silhouette through the frosted glass. Smaller than I remembered. Her knock was soft. Hesitant. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. She looked around the entryway like it was foreign. Like she couldn't believe I lived here alone. Like maybe, for the first time, she saw me as someone who'd made a life without her. "I brought you some of your old things," she murmured, holding up a cardboard box. "Thought maybe you'd want them back." Inside, a few school trophies, my childhood diary, a sweater she'd once said made me look too wide. I took the box but said nothing. She shifted uncomfortably. I didn't know what he did with the money. I swear." I raised an eyebrow. "But you knew he asked me for it. You knew he pressured me. And you called it family loyalty." She blinked. Her lips parted but nothing came out. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me. "You made me feel disposable, Mom," I said, voice steady. Like I was just a spare part in Kyle's machine. Tears welled in her eyes. For once I didn't rush to wipe them away. She looked up at me and whispered, "I failed you, didn't I?" I didn't answer. Sometimes silence says it all. She walked away slowly, shoulders hunched under years of denial crashing down. Inside I opened my diary. Flipping past pages of heartbreak and doodles, I found something I'd written at 16. "One day I'll have my own car, my own home, and no one will be able to take them from me. Not even Kyle. Not even Mom." I laughed, sharp and unexpected. Because somehow teenage me had known. I went to my garage, touched the car key that had once symbolized submission. Now it felt like a crown. Not made of gold. But earned in fire. And I thought, maybe this isn't the ending. Maybe it's the prologue. To the life I was always meant to live. Took me months to stop checking over my shoulder. Even though Kyle was behind bars, sentenced to 6 years for fraud, identity theft, and falsifying loan documents, there was still a ghost of him in every corner of my life. In every savings deposit I double-checked. In every late-night email from a bank. But slowly the silence stopped being scary. It started feeling like peace. Mom tried calling a few more times. I never answered. She left voicemails. Some apologizing, others defensive, all of them wrapped in the same selfishness that defined her version of love. "I didn't mean to hurt you. He's your brother. You've changed." He was right. I had changed. The woman I used to be would have handed over her car. Then her savings. Then her dignity. The woman I'd become didn't flinch. One morning I got a letter. A real one. From Kyle. Scrawled on yellow paper. The handwriting shaky. It started like this. I don't expect you to read this. But if you do, just know, it wasn't just about the money. I was jealous. You made your life without us and I hated you for it. And then toward the end, I ruined everything. I know that now. Mom still defends me, but even that feels hollow. You were the only one who ever set a boundary. Maybe that's why I hated you most. I folded the letter gently and placed it back in its envelope. Then I burned it. Not out of anger, but to let it go. That afternoon I took my car, out for a drive along the coast. The windows down. The air crisp with new beginnings. And for the first time in my life I didn't feel like someone's sister. Or someone's disappointment. Or someone's backup plan. I was just me. Whole. Free. Untouched by their poison. And in that quiet joy I whispered to myself. They thought they could take my life and give it to him. But in trying to steal everything, they gave me back something they never expected. Myself.